The sun dipped low over the sprawling hills of Napa Valley, casting golden beams across the vineyards like the brushstrokes of an artist creating a masterpiece. The vines, heavy with the promise of their harvest, stretched endlessly towards the horizon, their leaves rustling gently in the cool evening breeze. It was the kind of place where time slowed down, where people worked with their hands, their hearts, and the earth, and where every bottle of wine told a story of passion, tradition, and years of hard work. At Sunset Ridge Vineyards, where the grapes were cultivated with a meticulous attention to detail, Eliza Harper was living the dream she had fought so hard to build. A third-generation winemaker, she had inherited the vineyard from her father, who had passed away unexpectedly 2 years ago. Since then, Eliza had poured herself into the land, determined to keep the family legacy alive. She was as much a part of the soil as the vines themselves, and each bottle of wine she produced was a reflection of her soul. But this was a pivotal year. Eliza's vineyard was just beginning to gain some recognition in the wine world, and she had high hopes for the harvest. A few accolades, a little more publicity, and maybe, just maybe, she could expand Sunset Ridge into something even greater. But she knew it wouldn't happen without getting the right attention, specifically from people who could truly appreciate her work. People like Lila Montague, a food blogger with an impeccable reputation for reviewing everything from upscale restaurants to hidden culinary gems. Lila had been on Eliza's radar for months. The blogger's reviews were known to make or break small independent businesses, and Eliza knew that if Lila was impressed by Sunset Ridge, it could change everything. But Lila Montague wasn't the only thing Eliza was focused on. She was also balancing the vineyard's day-to-day operations with the pressing reality of her personal life, a life that had slipped into the background for far too long. As Eliza checked the final preparations for the evening's private tour, she didn't expect that this particular encounter would challenge not just her professional goals, but her very heart. And she certainly didn't expect to fall for Lila. The evening air was cool, but the warmth of the sunset still lingered, making the vineyard glow with a soft, golden hue. Eliza stood at the edge of the terrace, scanning the horizon. She heard the sound of footsteps behind her, soft but deliberate. She turned to see Lila Montague approaching, dressed casually but with an air of sophistication that seemed to match the elegance of the vineyard. Lila had been to a few wineries in the valley, but Sunset Ridge was different. It was smaller, more intimate, but had a reputation for quality, and that's why she had agreed to Eliza's invitation to visit the vineyard. Lila was, at first glance, everything Eliza had imagined. Her sharp eyes took in the vineyard with the precision of a seasoned reviewer. There was no fanfare, no staged enthusiasm, just an observant gaze as she soaked in the beauty of the land. "Welcome to Sunset Ridge," Eliza said with a friendly smile, extending her hand. "I'm Eliza Harper, the owner." Lila shook her hand with a firm but warm grip. "Nice to finally meet you, Eliza. I've heard a lot about your vineyard. It's beautiful here." Eliza's smile widened. "Thank you. I'm glad you think so. It's been in my family for generations, and I'm just doing my best to keep it going." "You're doing more than keeping it going," she said, her voice low and thoughtful. "I've been following your journey for a while now." There was something about the way Lila spoke, calm, careful, as if every word mattered, that intrigued Eliza. It wasn't just a job. To Lila, it was a passion. The way she observed the vineyard with such keen interest made Eliza feel like she was seeing it through new eyes. It was more than just the rolling hills and the vines. It was about the people who made it all happen. "Would you like a tour?" Eliza asked, eager to show Lila more of the vineyard. The idea of impressing the food blogger was already dancing in her mind, but there was something else, something unspoken. Lila had a way of making Eliza feel like she was seen, truly seen, in a way she hadn't in a long time. "Absolutely," Lila replied with a soft smile. They began walking through the vineyard, Lila asking questions about the soil, the climate, and the different varietals Eliza grew. As they walked, they began to talk about more than just wine. They shared stories about their lives, their hopes, and their dreams. Lila's sharp intellect was matched only by her genuine curiosity, and Eliza found herself opening up more than she had expected. For the first time in a long while, Eliza felt like someone truly understood her. And though they both tried to keep the conversation professional, there was a subtle undercurrent between them, an unspoken connection that neither could ignore. Over the next few weeks, Lila visited Sunset Ridge several more times, and their connection only grew. Lila would arrive with her notebook, jotting down notes as she tasted the wine and explored the vineyard. But as time passed, their interactions became less about business and more about something deeper. They would often find themselves talking for hours, long after the tours had ended, about life, love, and everything in between. Eliza learned that Lila had recently left a long-term relationship, something she wasn't eager to dive into, but hinted at in their late-night talks. It seemed that Lila had been burned before, and as much as she had a passion for food and wine, she had a guarded heart. She wasn't ready to give it away again so easily. Eliza, on the other hand, had always put the vineyard first. She had always known her priorities: family, tradition, and the land. But there was something about Lila that made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was room for something more. But Eliza wasn't sure if Lila felt the same way. She had always been the one to take the first step, but with Lila, she felt like she was waiting for permission. One evening, as the golden hour bathed the vineyard in warmth, Eliza sat down beside Lila on the terrace. The vineyard stretched out before them, quiet and serene, the wine glasses between them empty. The world felt still, as if holding its breath. "I need to tell you something," Lila said, her voice soft, almost hesitant. "I've been really impressed with everything you've done here, your vineyard. It's incredible." Eliza smiled, but there was a slight tightness in her chest. "Thank you. That means a lot." Lila took a deep breath. "And it's not just about the wine. It's about you. The way you're so connected to this place, to this legacy. It's inspiring." Eliza felt her heart race. "Lila?" Lila looked over at her, her eyes searching. "But Eliza, I've been thinking, I can't help but feel like our paths are different. Like I'm here trying to make my career, to build my brand, and you're here building something that's already yours. I don't know if there's room for both." Eliza's heart sank. She had been afraid of this moment, the moment when their dreams, their ambitions collided. "I'm not asking you to choose, Lila," Eliza said, her voice steady, despite the fear that churned inside her. "But I want to be honest. I don't want to lose what we have because of our work. We can find a way to make it work." Lila sighed and looked out at the vineyard. "I don't know, Eliza. I think I'm afraid of letting something like this get in the way of what I've worked so hard for." Eliza reached across the table, resting gently on Lila's. "I understand, but I can't deny that I care about you, and I want to see where this could go." Lila looked down at their hands, her pulse quickening. She didn't want to hurt Eliza, but she also didn't want to risk everything she had worked for. There was so much uncertainty, so much at stake.
As the harvest season approached, the tension between Eliza and Lila grew. Their feelings for each other were undeniable, but the reality of their differing goals loomed large. Eliza wanted to expand the vineyard, increase production, and build her legacy. She knew that publicity was key, and having someone like Lila Montague champion her work could take Sunset Ridge to new heights. But Lila's career was also at a crossroads. She had offers from major publications, sponsors, and brands, and she couldn't afford to tie herself down to one vineyard, no matter how special it was. She had spent years building her reputation, and now she was finally at a place where her work could take her anywhere. The two women couldn't seem to find common ground. Eliza with her passion for tradition, and Lila with her desire to break out and explore new horizons. The gap between them widened, and though they both tried to bridge it, the pressure of their professional worlds kept pulling them apart. One evening, after a long day of tasting wines and checking on the harvest, Lila finally confronted Eliza. "Eliza, I can't keep doing this," Lila said, her voice cracking. "I can't pretend like everything's fine when I'm feeling torn in 1,000 different directions. I can't risk my career for something that might not even last." Eliza's heart shattered, but she didn't show it. "Then why are you here? Why did you come back?" Lila's face softened. "Because I care about you. But caring doesn't make things easier. It makes them harder." The next few days were a blur of silence. Eliza threw herself into the harvest preparations, working tirelessly to ensure everything went smoothly. But no matter how busy she was, she couldn't stop thinking about Lila. And Lila couldn't stop thinking about Eliza either. The distance between them was unbearable. It was on the night of the harvest celebration that Eliza realized what she had to do. As the guests laughed and danced under the twinkling lights, Eliza stood on the terrace, staring out at the vineyard. The weight of her decisions, her dreams, and her heart all seemed to collide in that moment. Lila found her there, standing alone, her face bathed in the soft glow of the lanterns. "I can't let you go, Lila," Eliza said, her voice thick with emotion. "I can't lose this. Lose you." Lila's eyes softened, and she stepped closer. "But we can't keep living in limbo. We have to choose." Eliza nodded slowly. "Then I choose us. I choose you." And with that, everything changed. The vineyard, the harvest, the future, it all seemed to fall into place. The decision was no longer about business, about success, or about winning. It was about love. And Eliza knew, deep down, that with Lila by her side, she could have both. They stood there together, their hands entwined, ready to face the future they would build together, not just as a winemaker and a food blogger, but as partners, with their dreams and their love entwined like the vines they had nurtured for so long. Months later, Sunset Ridge Vineyard was thriving. Eliza and Lila had found a way to balance their careers and their relationship. Eliza's wines were being celebrated across the country, and Lila's blog was more popular than ever, with her readers falling in love with the vineyard and the woman who ran it. Together, they proved that love could bloom even in the most unlikely of places, and that sometimes the greatest harvest wasn't just the grapes, but the love that grew between two people, nurtured by patience, understanding, and trust. And as they stood together, overlooking the vineyard at sunset, Eliza knew that this was just the beginning.